Welcome back to the Outside the Box Income and Investing Podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Dr. Owen. You may know him as the king of cashpt workshops. He's basically going to teach you how to use cashpt workshops to generate money to get leads for your clinic and make 10K or more per workshop. So, Owen, thank you so much for coming on. You want to go ahead and tell your story a bit and how you got into what you're doing now?
Yeah, man. Do you want me to start from the beginning, how I got into cashpt, and then fast forward to a year and a half in, or?
Yeah, do that.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I guess we'll try and give you Cliff Notes version. Basically, I used to work for Kaiser in home health. I was a burnt out PT and outpatient, went into home health for about 5 years. And then they came out with these crazy medical mandates and they denied my religious exemption. I was terminated. And so I responded by opening up my own cashpt clinic. And luckily I came across, or maybe he found me, it was Aaron LeBauer, and took one of his courses. And with that course, I think the first month we made 7,400 in revenue. And then he asked me to join the mastermind. I did. And then that's where I met you, Brandon, the man. And I remember Aaron saying something like, you made 40K in a weekend or something like that. And he asked you if you just want to pay off the mastermind. And you're like, nah, bro, I'm just going to invest the rest in crypto. And then I made even more money. And I was like, fuck, dude. So that's when I reached out to you when I heard that story. And then I joined your coaching program too. And I think proof's in the pudding with how good your coaching program is, with helping me, helping everybody, as well as Aaron's too. Anyways, so what happened was, one of the reasons why I've been able to scale so fast and so quickly, aside from like coaching like yours, was doing workshops as well as like community events and stuff like that. And I think over the course of the past year and a half, we've probably done close to 100. It started off with just one a month with one gym, and then moved to 2 gyms. And now it's up to 8+ events a day. And we also have hired on to other additional physical therapists. So we now have 3 treating clinicians. Well, my wife has just had a baby, so she's not treating anymore. But basically, we started out from doing one workshop and making just maybe getting a couple of patients and maybe closing like 1, 2. I think the best that we ever did at a workshop was, it was actually better than 10K in a day. I just tell people because that's our new average. But it's like now we have it down to such a system that we will do a workshop, and the greatest one we did, I think we got 8 people in the door, 7 converted to a plan of care, and we made close to like 14K technically with just one workshop. So that in a nutshell is my story.
That was very quickly summed up, because I heard you tell your story. We were in Denver and you were going on for an hour. You summed it up a lot since then. But for your story, what do you think though sets you apart from other people? Is it willingness to just take action? Is it that you like, it's my podcast? Is it that you're not being a pussy? Like, really, what does it come down to?
Great question. And the answer is yes to both those. I am in fact a little too quick to act from time to time, and sometimes I mess up, and then I get to learn. And I've learned a lot of lessons in my life for doing that, but also too, that being quick to act is definitely key, and also not being a pussy. But I do have my own negative self-talk, negative chatter calling me a pussy from time to time. And I go, no, fuck you. Like, you're the man. And sometimes got to play some motivational shit to amp myself up, do this little morning routine. And then regardless of how bad I feel, sometimes I still just fucking do it. So yeah.
When did you start your cash practice?
I believe it was October of 2021.
You're doing it by yourself? Was it before Aaron, around the same time?
I was doing it by myself. Luckily, I got into Aaron's course my second week in business. It was brand new.
When you started, you just went for the no revenue really coming in, correct?
Yeah, no revenue coming in. I think I was terminated officially 2 weeks before I launched the practice. So I had 2 weeks, and I just threw everything together, got it all going, marketed the best I could with the few like kind of personal trainers and chiropractors and stuff like that I knew, and offered free evaluations. And I think I got 3 or 4 evaluations that week number 3. And I wasn't really doing good as far as like sales and stuff like that's concerned. I think I charged them like $33 for like a follow-up appointment for like a half an hour treatment. And because I was a pussy. And didn't think anyone was going to pay more than their copay and stuff. So I was trying to do 30-minute treatments, and I just said, I'll give you half off. It's going to be $33 for your next visit. And none of those people that I did that with converted to a package or plan of care. They were all the new people that were coming in that actually converted packages and plan of care. So, yeah.
You started off pretty terribly. Then you got business coaching. With the business coaching, I believe what you did 200K plus your first year in business.
Yes, 200K plus first year in business. It was challenging, but it was good. And it was because I had really good direction from people like you.
So what did it take though? Was it the coaching? Was it just like this has to work? Was it that your wife was going to be pregnant? What were the things, the factors in your head?
Yeah, that's a great question. I believe getting the business together was the urgency of, oh fuck, I'm out of a job. Luckily, I did have an expense cushion of, I don't know, 8 months or something. I made good money off the AMC stock. That helps give me the confidence. But the urgency was like, how long can you live off these savings? You got to move, you got to act. So that's why I was like, I'm just going to throw this shit together. In fact, my original plan was to create a travel agency. So my LLC is actually Advanced Travel Health, because I was just essentially going to be the only practitioner for advanced travel health, and then cut out the middleman of recruiters, and then just go get paid a traveler's wage, but make all the money rather than having to pay some stupid recruiter and recruiting agency. But the cash PT practices ended up just like falling in my lap. This chiropractor was like, hey, talk to these guys. And I was like, okay. And then it was just, I just followed the omens. I just followed it around. But that was the initial start, was the urgency. My wife and I, we ended up getting married, I think 6 months into business. And then she ended up getting pregnant 3 months in. So the baby was an urgency. That was like planned. The wedding was planned. I did propose to her on my first day of unpaid admin leave, though. That was interesting because that was already planned. So I had to execute. I'm not somebody that just goes back on their word and doesn't do the things that they say they're going to do. So that definitely seems to help too. But essentially, I think what was really the driving and motivating forces for the ambition and stuff was being around people like you, as well as Aaron, getting me to think bigger. So I was just like, cool, man, I want to replace my Kaiser job and make 6K take home a month or something like that. And I technically did that the first month. But during that course, I did a free training right before the course. And Aaron was like, what do you want to make a year? What do you really want to make a year? And I'm just like, I want to make 30K. He's like, 60K, good. 60K sounds good. A month. Not talking about a year, like a month. And I was just like, okay. So then somehow he got me into this thought that I set a goal that I wanted to open up our own brick and mortar location, have 2 practicing physical therapists, and make 65K in revenue in 1 month for 1 year in business. So that's what my goal was for the first year on like the kickoff call. I was like, I'm going to do it because Aaron basically told me that someone had done, I think Ben Baggy was treating like only like a day and a half a week. And then the other full-time therapists were working and he made 65K a month. And I was like, oh, cool. So it's been done before. So I'm going to do that then. And I thought that he meant that somebody had done that in 1 year. So that's what was giving me the motivation. And then while I was going through it and doing all the grind and everything was like ridiculous, wanting to pull my hair out sometimes and all the stress, I just went, this has been done before, so I can do it. I can make this goal happen. And I didn't make the goal happen, but we are definitely on the road to making the goal happen. I think Jen just told me today that we just crossed over 100,000 in revenue. She figured it out today that we just crossed it with our 2 other practitioners, but we're still not that 65K a month. I think we made like 27K and then broke 30 last month, but I'm still reaching for that goal. But something that makes me feel a little bit better about it was Ben Baggy did not do that in a year. That I spoke with him, and that took quite a few years for him to get to that level. And I was like, oh, okay. So the thinking big, the setting these outrageously impossible goals, and then thinking that it had already been done before, and I must just have to suck it up. If someone else done it before, I should be able to do it.
Yeah, 100%. What I noticed is a problem that I think you solve exponentially, because I've seen you help out people in Aaron's group and people in my group and people in general, is that a lot of people can have a cash practice or have a mobile practice or do these things, but the reason they're not getting leads, the reason they're not handling sales objections is literally they're just not putting the work in. And people get mad at me when they're like, oh, I don't want to do workshops. Then I'm like, okay, then you don't deserve to make money. And people get mad at me when I say that, but it's like, you don't want to put the work, you don't deserve it. Right. So for you, what was that switch that you wanted to go do workshops? And then how are you successful in doing them? And at the same time, what made you want to reach out and teach other people how to do it?
Yeah, great question. And I feel like a lot of people get analysis paralysis too. I was just helping out a PT the other day, and he was like waiting on his website and then waiting on his business cards for his website to be finished before he made his business cards. And then he had to set up intake queue first. And I was like, no, like, don't do any of that stuff. I started out on paper. I had paper and pen on my first evaluations and loaded them into a Google Drive. You just got to go start talking to gym owners. Where you got to print out business cards on like cardstock or some shit, whatever you got to do, like that links to your Instagram. You don't even need to have a web page, as long as your Instagram has your address on it and it matches with the card, and then maybe you got to Google, business and stuff. Like, you're good to go, dude. Like, start moving. But as far as how we do workshops, luckily the first workshop fell into my lap, and this doesn't happen for everybody, but my wife Jen, she knew some gym owners, and his name's Coach Tato and Coach Jillian of Cali for Fitness here in San Diego. He happens to be, we didn't know this, but he used to be in Bedros Mastermind with Aaron at one point. And now he's with Alex Mosey, but Jen actually used to do workshops just for a free gym membership years ago. So she told me, she said, hey, you want to go meet Coach Tato and Jillian? It's Jillian's birthday, and they're over at this like Punch Bowl social downtown. I was like, yeah, let's do it. So we went over there, and then she introduced me. I talked to them. They were cool. And she's like, hey, do you think, Owen, since he's opening up a cash practice, can you start doing the workshops like I used to do? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. When do you want to start? I'm like, shit, okay, let's get it on the books. So I got that one on the books and did our first workshop. And again, I did a really cheap price for like an evaluation, but I did get quite a few people in. I sold really cheap packages. And I think like the packages I sold, I was selling like 10 visits for $9.99, and then 5 visits for $625 or something like that. So the packages were huge because they were what allowed me to make $7,400 in revenue. I did have to start raising my rates in order to make more, but just, I guess, getting those small victories in the beginning, I was like, wow, just from this workshop, I pulled a couple patients and then sold a few $1,000s in packages. And there were errors. I made mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes. And then so I was like, okay, how can we make this better? How can we improve this? How can we make it more efficient? How can we make this more time efficient too? Because I just went there to the gym, a paper sign-in sheet, first one, just like name, email, phone number. And I said, hey, I'm going to send you guys like this ebook on like what we're teaching today, and I just need you to write it down. And then so I think I did something like I did a mass email and said, hey, if anyone wants the ebook, email me individually and I'll send it over to you. So I mean, you don't really got to get fancy right away. Then build automations and do all those things and have a website and just go there, paper, pen, just do a fucking workshop.
Yeah, one thing I want to say, and something actually Greg Todd said to me when I was with Greg a few weeks ago, is that a lot of PTs, especially, they think that an LLC equals a business. It's an idea, not a business. What equals a business is when someone pays you money for services.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of PTs just don't get that. I think you got that because you needed to get that, right? Because you're like, hey, I got 8 months to figure something else out. You started doing cash pay, started doing workshops, then you got proficient at them. Now I know you're also teaching sales objections, and I do believe that you can teach anyone to make 10K or more through a workshop if they follow your plan exactly and actually have to put in the work first. And they say, hey, this isn't working for me. They're probably not doing it the correct way. But right now you're launching a product as well. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah. Oh, great question. Yeah, it's called the Cash-Based PT Workshop Accelerator. And essentially it's to basically take somebody within 5 to 6 weeks. The 6 weeks is a bonus if they hop on with some of the specials and some of the challenges that we have going on, where they're essentially going to be able to take the evolution that took me from day one, that first workshop that I did, fast forward to a year and 7 months in, where we made over 14K in just doing one single workshop. Basically, they're going to learn my wins and lessons, and I'm going to teach them how to install everything to make it super efficient. And the efficiency is key. I don't want them have to make all the mistakes that I made previously. I think you said they're just not doing it right. Maybe it's them. Yeah. You got to figure out where you went wrong. There were times that I went to a workshop and no one was there. That happened once. There were times where I went to workshops and only one person showed up, but I still gave the presentation as if the room was completely filled. And then there were times where we're like, hey, I think we built a big enough following. Maybe we should start doing workshops at our clinic. And then we did that for a few weeks in a row. We got one person in each time, and they were already a patient of ours. So we didn't really make any sales off of it. And so I see these other PTs online saying they're having workshops at their clinic. And I say, yeah, good luck with that. Let me know how that goes. And they don't respond. Then I message them and say, hey, how'd that workshop go at your clinic? Ghost me. And that's just telling me that they probably had the same results that I had. Maybe one person showed up, but it didn't work out too well.
I know you guys are doing the pre-launch right now for your course. And one thing I want to say, I say this a lot because it's true, but whatever you want to do, whether it's workshops or whatever, but if you're listening to this, probably a cash-based workshop, you're going to either pay in time or money. Now, it took Owen 1.5 to 2 years of time. You can go and grab his program and basically get that speed right now. That link maybe below, maybe in an email, depends on how many spots he has. I do recommend, though, you reach out to him at Advanced PT Wellness on Instagram. What are the best ways for people to contact you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so they could even call, text, and I'll give that phone number. That's pretty ballsy, but that's 858-265-7727. Again, that's 858-265-7727. They can email me at ojohnston@advancedptwellness.com. They can go to our website, advancedptwellness.com, or they can even just Google Advanced PT Wellness, and they just go to our website. They can check under the tab called, it just says coaching, and then click on coaching. And there's a whole bunch of free resources on there too. There's free trainings on workshops, free trainings on community events, free trainings on how to improve home exercise program compliance, getting the patients to actually do the work so they get better. So then they tell their friends and then they come into your clinic. The course is going to be on there as well. And it really does work. Like you said, they can literally take the course for 6 weeks and not have to make all the mistakes that it took me 1.5 years to build up this level, because that same thing happened to me with coaching with Aaron. Let's say I think I did what it took him 5 years and 6 months. It took him 5 years to hire his first employee, and I did in 6 months. And he promised me that, and he was right. So this is true.
Yeah, I just want to get your contact info out there in case people are listening to this and were interested. I know that you've done a lot from your story of being fired to Cash PT to now doing workshops. I know you've crushed it in person. Now that you have your staff, probably going to crush it online with your workshop accelerator as well. Anything else you want to add to this? Anything you want to just talk about in general?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm just going to share a quick story. And that is when I was in PT school, and we had a guest speaker one day, and I think there was like, I don't know, 35, 40 of us in there in the cohort. And the guest speaker, she was doing some sort of like inpatient neuro. That's what she did. And she was like, hey, how many of you guys want to do acute rehab? Raise your hand. And it was like, nobody. And she's like, hey, how many of you want to do outpatient ortho? And every single one of us, except for 1 or 2 people, raised our hands, including me, all super excited. And we're like, yeah, outpatient ortho. And then she was like, yeah, I thought the same thing, but things change. And then that, like, my mind just went, wait, what the fuck? What do you mean things change? If that's what you want, you fucking go do it. And then so I didn't get it until I actually finished PT school and then started working for a mill clinic, and then seeing 30 patients a day, almost 4 patients an hour, and got burnt out of 2 years, and then was smart. Like you tell people to do, go to home health. It's either home health or cash PT. Now that cash PT is a thing, but back then it wasn't. So I went to home health, got like a 70% increase in pay, broke 6 figures easy, and then went to 2 to 5 patients a day. But I wasn't fulfilled as a PT. I was like, now I understand why that woman said, but things change. And every other one of my classmates, almost all of them anyways, they've gone over and switched over home health. Like I watched them one after another. So basically, when I was leaving outpatient, my boss told me I can't compete with home health. And I think a better question to ask is, how can I compete with home health? And basically what happened was I was able to create the dream PT job with the help of you, with the help of Aaron, for myself. This is exactly what I envisioned in PT school, working one-on-one with patients and not running around chicken my head cut off, thinking I'm like working at Domino's Pizza and then working overtime to get my notes done. No, working one-on-one with patients, just like in home health. So now I'm on a new mission too, and that is to give every single outpatient physical therapist nationwide the ability to make, or the opportunity to make, home health money with a home health caseload, because that's what I've done. And that's what I've gotten to share with my two other PTs that work with me. And I can't do that alone. Sure, maybe I could like hire people, franchise, do whatever, Alex Mosley, gym launch, whatever, but I can't do that alone. So I want to help other physical therapists that are outpatient physical therapists, even if they are working, that hate their jobs. I want to help them out. I want to help out the people that already own cash PT businesses that aren't doing so well, and then teach them our secrets so that they can give more outpatient physical therapists the opportunities and not give up on their dreams like I almost did.
Yeah, I mean, it's an uphill battle, but it's a good battle. I'll tell you this, that as someone that's made content now for 4 or 5 years, I got messages this morning, and this is what people don't see the long game. Online business in general is a long game, but when it comes to content, and this podcast too will probably be viewed a few years from now, but I get messages. They're like, "Hey, I've watched your videos the past 3 years. You gave me the confidence to quit my shitty outpatient job and go do my own business, or go maybe home health for a bit for capital or travel and stuff like that." So it's something where just putting it out there is going to change people's lives, maybe not immediately, but in the future. And too many people, they think that, oh, I signed up for this, where are my instant results? And a lot of the time they don't realize it's a long game, or they don't put in enough effort to deserve the results that they want.
Oh, totally. Like even with some of the workshops that I did, sometimes the workshops can be a long game. So it seems, because not everyone falls into my lap like that. I think I shared a story on my Instagram where it took almost 8 months to get into a workshop in an F45. And then, but more so recently, through like wins and lessons, I built these two really fast relationships with some CrossFit gyms. I got a workshop already planned at one tomorrow, and that took less than 2 weeks. Already got it on the books. We're going and doing it tomorrow. And that was from some of the secrets that we're going to be talking about in the course. You don't have to do the long game.
Thank you guys for listening. I want to bring Owen on today. I know him as a personal friend. If you guys follow me, you saw us snowboarding and hanging out a lot, usually around Aaron's events. He has a great product. Make sure that you follow Owen on, I guess you can text or call him. Please don't spam him. But thanks so much for coming on today. Anything else you want to add?
Let's see here. Oh, yeah, great question. I'll add this. If you guys aren't already an Inner Circle member, maybe because you're on the fence, quit being a pussy and do what I did. Take immediate action and join Brandon Smith's Inner Circle, because he'll help take you to the moon, just like the AMC stock took me to the moon, because he's the man.
I actually haven't done a podcast since we started doing IC. So to clarify, we do have the Inner Circle Business Coaching Program. We have a few other programs as well going on with the book. We also now have a new software to get your business up and running. You guys will get this covered on the podcast. This is the second episode in 6 months. So if you're confused, you'll figure it out over time.
Or get the book. The book's great too. My favorite quote: it's okay to fail so long as you fail forward. And I think about that every day.
Somebody messaged me on Instagram telling me my book was full of lies, and I just told them to go fuck themselves. But yeah.
Don't listen to Jailhouse PT, whatever that means.
Yeah. All right, I'll stop the recording here.